Hello and welcome. My name is John McDonough. I'm a professor of public health practice at the Harvard School of Public Health, and I'll be your lead faculty on this new open online course called An Introduction to U.S. Health Policy. This course is sponsored by the Harvard School of Public Health, Harvard University, and HarvardX. And we welcome you to this exploration of the United States healthcare system and the policy that shapes it. So let's dive right in. Why are we doing this course? Well, I do a lot of talking everywhere around the country and elsewhere about health reform in the United States, about Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act. And I often get the question, why is it so hard to understand the health reform law? Why can't I understand Obamacare? And my answer back to people normally is, well, how well do you think you understand the U.S. healthcare system to begin with? And the answer is usually, well, I really don't understand it very well at all. So my answer is, if you don't understand the underlying system, then it's awfully hard to imagine that you can make a lot of sense of comprehensive reform of the system. So what we're trying to do with this course is to help you understand much better the underlying dynamics of the U.S. healthcare system and the policy that shapes it, so that you can be more conversant in that system, and also so that you can understand the reform of that system. The metaphor I like to use to think about the healthcare system is the forest and the trees. And we'll start right here, kind of in the clouds, which is where I think a lot of people in the United States are. I label those clouds as some of the issues and forces and needs that move health policy in the system, that change what we're talking about, what we're focused on, whether it's the safety net, public health, workforce, mental health, whatever the issue may be. They're all part of what affects and influences what it's like to live in this forest. So let's start by clearing away the clouds so we can start to begin to see the forest. Think of the forest as healthcare systems all across the globe. Every nation has its own unique, special, one-of-a-kind healthcare system that's theirs. And so does the United States. We have a big part of this forest. And so let's hone down and come to the U.S. part of the global health forest. So think of this tree here in the middle, and this part of the forest is the U.S. health system. Think of the tree perhaps as representing your healthcare system where you live. So not the whole U.S. healthcare system. Let's just say you live in St. Paul. Think of that tree as the Minneapolis-St. Paul healthcare system or the Santa Fe healthcare system. And let's go and take a closer look at it and see what's inside it. So there are three essentials that determine the life and health of the tree. One is obviously air, one is water, and one is the soil. And just like you have air, water, and soil that are essential for the life of the tree, you have three essential forces that are essential for the life and health of a healthcare system. One of those is quality, how well the medical care is that people receive. Does it make them healthier? Does it keep them from getting sick? One is financing. That is the money to pay the medical care providers that pay the services, to pay for the buildings and the equipment and the drugs, to pay for everything. It's essential to make the system happen, and we'll be talking a lot about financing in this course. And then the third essential dynamic is access. Do people have the ability to see the medical providers, to get the medical services that they need? So just like the tree has air, water, and soil, a healthcare system requires quality, financing, and access as the three essential dimensions that make the tree grow and that keep us operating in a system that works at a level that people expect. So now let's take a little closer look inside the tree itself. And what you notice in the tree And this is true of every tree in the forest, regardless of the healthcare system. There are 5 major branches to the tree. There's 5 major branches to the U.S. healthcare system, and it's repeated wherever you happen to live in your local healthcare system. And so let's take a look at those 5 branches, because we'll be coming back to these repeatedly again and again over the course of the 10 weeks that we spent together. So the first major branch are called the patients. You could also call these the consumers. You could call them the public. You might say, well, isn't this what the whole system is about? And to some extent, you're right. But recently in healthcare policy, we spend a lot of time arguing about how can we make the U.S. healthcare system more patient-friendly or more patient-centric. And just by asking the question, I think we acknowledge that we fall short in terms of having a truly patient-centered system. Our second major branch is called the provider branch. The provider branch are all of the medical professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the clinical social workers, the psychologists, everyone in the system who provides medical services to patients to either cure some illness or physical problem or to keep people healthy so that they don't need to come back for some kind of more serious care. The providers are absolutely essential, as you know. Let's look at the next 2 branches and understand that people get these next 2 branches confused. The first one we call the purchasers. Purchasers are people and organizations who buy health insurance. So a business buys health insurance from an insurance company to cover its workers. An individual or a family buys a health insurance policy for their own coverage. We call those people purchasers. They purchase health insurance, and they are a major part of the dynamic of the system in terms of how it works. But then slide then to the next branch. The next branch we call the payers. And by the payers we mean the people who directly pay for medical services. So for example, a health insurance company is not a purchaser, they are a payer. People purchase their coverage and then they pay hospitals, they pay physicians, they pay all of the medical providers for the services that are provided then to the folks whose lives they cover. Similarly, you may be a purchaser, you may buy health insurance for yourself or your family, and you're also to some extent a payer. If you have a health insurance policy, for example, that requires you to pay a large deductible or large co-insurance, you are actually also then acting as a payer at the same time. And these seem very interrelated. They are distinct in important ways, and we'll get into that as we get deeper into the course, particularly when we start talking about private health insurance. And then we have just one more of the major branches, and I call that major branch the policymakers. The policymakers may work in federal government, state government, county government, municipal government. They may be in quasi-government organizations that are not necessarily directly public agencies, but they have public power given to them by the state or the federal government. These are the people who make the rules, that make the system move, that make the system go. And these are the ones who are the object of influence, of people trying to influence them, because they make the rules that influence the behavior and activities and duties and responsibilities of everyone around all the other 4 branches. But these 5 branches are not the end. There's more. There are sub-branches to these and actually sub-sub-branches. And let me just give you one example. Let's look at the branch that's called providers. And let's go down and take a closer look. So you look at this branch of providers, and what you see is you thought it was just one branch, but there are a whole set of other sub-branches. There are hospitals, physicians, dentists, clinics, community health centers, pharmaceutical makers, and medical device makers. Let's understand that this is not the lowest level either. Let's just take a look at that sub-branch that's called physicians, and let's take a closer look at that. And what do we see? we see a whole flurry of other branches that emerge, of different branches of the physician community. You have surgeons, anesthesiologists, dermatologists, primary care clinicians, and believe me, this is just a small sample of all of the different kinds. Now, we could go further. You could go, for example, into the little branch called pediatricians and bear down on that and find that you've got a whole different set of sub-branches. And every one of these branches, sub-branches, sub-sub-branches, down and down and down, are influenced and shaped by the decisions that are made by the healthcare policy makers. Everyone, whether you like it or not, is part of the U.S. healthcare system, and everyone is subject to the decisions and the choices that are made in deciding how will U.S. health policy be shaped, what will it do, what are we trying to achieve.